everybody, and welcome back to the Board Game Specialist. I am Melanie.
And I'm Carla.
And we are on episode 72. And in this episode, we have a very special guest, Solomon Kwan, who is the co-owner of D6 Café in Calgary, which is a board game cafe, which is mine and Carla's dream job. So, like, honestly, who in the board game community doesn't want to have a board game cafe?
Exactly.
So, Solomon, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, and I kind of just kept going. So,
no, all good.
Tell us a little bit about you. Like, how did you get into board game? Just a quick intro.
Sweet, yeah. I mean, hi, I'm Solomon. My brother and I, we just played board games growing up as kids. One game turned into 5, turned into 10, turned into 20, turned into 100, turned into like 200, and then like, why don't we open a store? Like we love games so much, the amount that my brother and I were like, we gotta tell people about this. We should just open a store and just tell people about board games,
Nice,
so that's kind of where
great.
it came from.
That's great. No, that's exciting. So that's we've been following D6 because you just celebrated your 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's been a year. How time flies.
Right. So I remember what was it at the Tabletop YYC event, like last year, and then you guys were there kind of announcing that you were coming.
Yeah, that was when. Now that takes me back.
Yeah, right.
The cafe was still being built, but we were like, we got to get out there and tell people about it, and we were just, my brother and I, Michael and I, were just two nerds with a dream, and it was like, let's do this. It
nice.
was fun.
All right, that's exciting. So I'm gonna stop now before we get into the full interview part. Before we get into all that, we normally talk about a game we've been playing lately. So Carla, tell me, what have you been playing lately?
Well, I got to the table again, Viticulture World. So this is the co-op version of Viticulture. So there's the normal version where it's you are growing grapes, harvesting grapes, turning them into wine, and then fulfilling orders. Or there's other things you can do depending on some of the cards you get. There's a lot of card play in this game. The components are beautiful. It's, wooden components, and you have these little glass beads to track your wine and grape value, which is really neat. But in the co-op version, you have to accomplish different goals before the end of 6 rounds. And there's all these different continents that you can play. You can start with the beginner one, which is Fern Gully, which is actually from the Charterstone land, like the world, sorry. So that's the first kind of continent that you would try, like for beginner kind of thing. But they also have an introductory one that they sent with the wine crate that I got. And so me and Cherry have tried it a couple times, and it's actually really hard. I don't know if anybody's ever played it, but the co-op version is really hard. So we finally beat it. We beat it this time. And
nice.
It was very satisfying. But it's so fun, but it's so thinky, the co-op, because you have to literally, every single move you make has to be thought out, because if you do one or two things wrong, you're not going to win the game. So it's really thinky, but it's nice because you have people, like you can play, I think, up to 4 maybe in co-op. I'm not even sure. I've only ever played it with 2, but you really have to strategize together. And we did it. So now we can move on to the
we beat it. We're done.
No, we only beat the introductory.
The intro game.
Well, you know what? I gotta say, with co-op, I like my co-ops to be challenging.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to win more than
because
one out of every 4 games.
I mean,
I want it to be like, oh my god, did you feel that? Okay, except for campaign games, that really ticked me off when you lose a campaign game and you got to do the whole scenario again. But I don't want my campaign games to be easy, but I don't want my co-ops to be not, too easy. If that makes sense.
like I know my brother, he's like super logical, and he's just like, whenever we're playing like Flashpoint, for example, he'll be like, okay, on your turn, you do this. That gives us a 13% chance for like blah, blah, blah. This is the statistics of the dice. They're going to land on this and this. That'll trigger an explosion. So if you do not put out this fire and this fire, statistically, we are like, this is the stats of us losing.
It's like the Rain Man of like board game. Like you just calculate all the math. That's insane.
Yeah. And he's like,
Nice.
I don't know why co-op game, like he loves board games as well, but he's just like, oh, I don't know, co-op games, like it feels like I'm just playing it by myself. And I'm like, it's because you are. because you are playing it by yourself.
Nice. That's funny. How about you, Solomon? What have you been playing lately?
Oh, geez. It's a little bit of a problem. I just got in my 33rd game of Ark Nova.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I haven't played it yet.
What?
I know.
You
Have not played that?
Because I don't,
so
it's
good.
like, okay, do I have 3 hours? And I don't own the game, but
Yeah.
then do I have, like, so.
Actually, it's okay. I mean, I guess it's okay.
You can get it
30
in around
30
2,
games.
I would say. I'm sure.
Well,
you can get it.
you only play your 32nd game of Ark Nova once. So I'm at a 13 win streak right now with my
So
friends.
you track your games?
No. Why do you ask?
Well, I do. Don't you?
Who doesn't? Are you
No, of
playing
course.
it on BGA?
Of course I track. Yeah.
Or are you
But,
talking
no,
about
I love
tabletop?
Valorant.
Or yeah, are you playing it on BGA or on the table?
I play it online with some of my friends. But then also when there's a little bit of quiet time at the store, I play it with some of my staff. Wow, lucky staff.
Right?
But
Ugh. I want another job. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
So how was your last play of Ark Nova?
it's good. I absolutely rolled my friend. It wasn't much of a contest near the end game. You only get one action for your final turn, but
Okay.
I have a specific way of making sure I get 3 extra actions on my final turn, and he's like, "Is that even legal?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. Like, if you do this and blah blah blah." And then he's like, "Oh man, I got a positive score. I got 28," and I'm like, "Yeah, 64." And he's like, "Okay, so you won." I'm like, "Oops."
Yeah. You know what? I played Gaia Project once at Autofest, and the guys that I was playing with had played it lots, and they lapped me, and there was over 100 points ahead of me. So
Well,
yeah, 68 to 20, whatever it was, 26. That's legit.
That's
That's
a close
good.
game.
But
Now, what have you been playing?
Oh yeah. What have you been?
I got Wingspan Asia to the table.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I played Wingspan in 2019 the first time. And then I played Wingspan the second time in 2023. And I just hadn't played it. Like, Lee had played it the first time. He didn't really care for it. So I was like, well, I'm not going to bother getting it and trying to get it played if he doesn't care for it. But then when I played it, we had some girlfriends come over here in Acme. It was the Acme gaming group. We actually have a gaming group in Acme. It's a population of 650 people, so that's really impressive. But so the girls were over and we played Wingspan. I was like, oh yeah, this is good. So, and we were talking. I was like, okay, well, I think I want to get it. And is that, well, do I get Wingspan or do I get Wingspan Asia? And then I'm kind of thinking I'll get Lee back into it, and then they'll probably be playing mostly just the two of us until I get the original Wingspan. So, because Wingspan Asia is an expansion to Wingspan, but it's also a standalone 2-player game.
Oh,
So
2-player
we-
only.
Yeah. So we played it
Oh.
2-player, me and Lee, and it plays like Wingspan. The gameplay is completely like Wingspan, except that when you add a bird onto your board, you get this little kind of yin-yang token that you can add onto another board. And this has like little icons. Some of them will give you bonuses. But so if I play a bird that is in the grassland and it has a bowl nest and it has a wingspan of over 50 centimeters and all these criterias, then I can put it in the grassland area of that board and cover one of the areas or the kind of the icon that's showing there that's either has the bowl nest, or maybe it has a larger wingspan, or maybe it's like, well, it ate grub, so then I can put it there. But then that kind of creates a side game as well, because as you're adding these will be part of some of the round's goals. Could be that you're trying to get the most token in one row, or you're trying to create these different goals. And then also at the end, what the largest cluster that you were able to create on that little board will count as bonus points, which you get caught up in the game and you kind of get caught. It's like, oh yeah, so the most nest icon, I'm trying to put that, and then all spread out, nothing's next to each other.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh
Like
right, we're trying to create that too. Okay, so I think I had a cluster of 2.
Yeah. Yikes.
Lee had a cluster of 6. It's like, oh, all right, we're doing that too. So but it kind of adds an interesting aspect to it. But then otherwise it plays like Wingspan. So you're collecting, like you're creating that engine building, you're collecting the birds, you got to have the proper feed to bring them in. You're gonna, lay eggs, you're going to go get food. And then as you're activating those rows, you get to activate the birds along those rows. But yeah, it was neat. I enjoyed it. Lee liked it way better than he did the first play, so I think he'll play it again. And then he won too, so
Of course.
because of that cluster.
Do you find that like games that are turned like into 2-player games, like, because I know Wingspan isn't very like competitive, like you're not really actively like,
exactly.
each
You're
other?
kind of working your own thing, right?
Yeah. Does the 2-player variant still kind of keep that like, hey, I keep my own stuff?
I mean, it does create a little bit of getting in each other's way on that board, because if I take the bowl nest in the grassland, well, then he can't. He's
Right.
gonna have like that area has been taken, and you can try to play to break the clusters they're creating and just kind of get in the way. So you could play that way as well. So it does create a little bit more of interaction in that way, without taking away from the game, really. I find sometimes you'll get some games that be like, okay, and then we'll do this, and then we'll add this, and then we'll add this. And there's like, this could have been 3 different games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like it's overcomplicated, but it's neat. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Perfect. So we're gonna get into finding out more about our dream job here. Now, like, how did this all come out to be? Like, how did you decide we're gonna open a game store beyond just like this would be neat, like to actually physically decide, we're actually doing this, and like what was the process of making that happen?
A lot of work, but
Really?
that's the TLDR. But Michael and I, like I said, we had like 200 some board games. But there was one that there was one that we always kept bringing back to the table, and that was Dice Throne.
Oh, nice! Yes, love it.
And I played it, and like I mentioned earlier, my brother's a very logic kind of guy. So whenever I play any game with him, he will trounce me by like the point difference is, like he'll take an optimal turn, right?
Right.
But when I play Dice Throne, it kind of like I had this feeling of like, wow, like games don't have to be, you don't have to be like super logical to, have a really good time. There is luck, but there is some level of skill, and the game was just so engaging that like I kind of fell in love with it. And Michael and I were we were just sitting one day, and we were we were just playing a game of Dice Throne, and I was like, this game is really like, it really speaks to both of us, And, why don't we share this? Like, we're not involved in Dice Throne in any way. They didn't sponsor us or anything. But Michael and I felt this great love and passion to just share the joy that we got out of it with people. And what better thing to do than to, have our library available for people to play. And both Michael and I love to snack while we're playing anyways.
Yeah.
So why not do board games? Why not do a cafe? Like, that's just kind of how it came to be.
Nice.
That's awesome. You have
Nice.
great snacks there too. I've been there.
Oh,
thank you.
yeah.
Some pretty neat
And
ones
it's
where
gorgeous.
you can take your bag and you fill it. You can you go in the jar or something that I remember.
Yeah.
You can scoop stuff into this little thing.
Yeah, like we have all the jars of snacks available for people to see, and then we do all the
Or
we
you do
build
the
the bowl
scooping,
for you.
Yeah.
But it kind of adds when you you get to see and you're like, ooh, those gummy
that's
bears.
fun,
They're
They got my name on it.
they're looking really good right now,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
So,
yeah.
side question here, are
Yeah.
they board game friendly snacks?
Yes.
Yes. The one thing my brother and I thought of. We thought of everything. We for 1 month, about a month, we opened 75 of our games, and we measured the average board game size
Oh,
And-
Okay.
custom built the tables to be the average size of most
Oh.
games.
Wow.
When
you
I say
guys
that-
really.
When I say
Oh.
that Michael and I really care, we really care. We our whole experience was to create something that people who don't normally play board games are able to fully enjoy and experience the fun of the game without needing to worry I can't fit this on my table, or I don't know, this isn't sleeved properly, or it's not organized, or I don't know how difficult the games are and stuff like that.
And then you left room for snacks. When
Exactly.
you measured the games. Perfect.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So now with you opening like most of us gamers dream job, opening a cafe, having all the games there, has this at all affected your love of gaming?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. The best part about having a cafe full of board games is that I finally get a chance to crack open the few that I never kind of got around to.
Yeah.
Like a shelf. You don't have a shelf of shame.
No, exactly. They're all
Jesus.
Well, maybe
and
that's your route.
Open a board game cafe in Acme. Did I mention population is 650?
Well, yeah. Then
And I
you
found
have
3 board gamers.
That's okay. You just have you have a library of 650 games, and
I
then
do.
each person in the entire, all of Acme plays
everyone
one
has a
game.
they can
Oh my god, I have reached that level. I have enough games in my personal collection for each people
for
that
everyone
live in
your city, in
Acme.
your town.
Yeah.
When we moved in, that was the kids were teasing me. Oh no, watch, you're gonna have enough games for everybody in Acme, and I'm like, okay, I don't, but I do. I've reached that level.
There we go. There we go.
Nice. Well, that's good that it's you're doing it as a work, but you're still enjoying it and
Mhm.
still getting to play. I wanted to see. Do you still get to play as much or more? Is it affecting how much you get to play?
I'd say definitely I play a lot less because there's a
Yeah.
lot of back end work, but also things like front end work at the cafe as well. And I love board games, but sometimes on my day off I will maybe do something besides board games. But I get the excuse of hey, you know what? Let's have a staff meeting. Why don't we do a staff meeting? This one looks really cool. Let's grab a steampunk rally. That one's cool. But I have that. I'm lucky to be able to do that with some of my staff. And it's not for the purpose that they get to play. It's for the purpose of, if someone grabs it off the wall, that they have the knowledge to teach or to, engage Because that's the one thing that we want to build, right? We want to build a cafe that engages guests with games that they would probably not feel comfortable ever trying. And then kind of how I fell in love with Dice Throne, falling in love with it, right?
Yeah.
So
Here's a side question too. Do the staff that you hire, are they all gamers and knowledgeable of all of the games, or is it just sort of sometimes that works out that way?
My brother and I definitely do, like, I wouldn't say screen, but we definitely it definitely works in your favor if you knew board games. Like we don't just want to be a place where anybody can just walk in and be like, oh, do you know this thing? And be like, I don't know. It's a game, I think. Right. And, usually if you're passionate about games, you're going to want to talk more about it. Right.
Yeah.
And there's no need to like upsell anything. It's just showing people games. So when guests come and they see that, Brennan, one of my evening staff members, is absolutely infatuated with a game, they're going to want to be like, well, that person knows it. They love it. So I should try it. And they're offering to sit down and guide us through it. So why not, right? Make it evening, make an afternoon, and try something they never played. And, it definitely adds. It definitely adds.
Nice. That's cool. I just want to have a board game store now.
I know.
So, how many games do you have in the store library?
Right now, I think like 660.
Okay. Do you know them all?
I wish.
Right?
I wish. Like people were like, oh, like you've never played this game before, and I'm like, unfortunately I haven't. And they're like, oh, what's your reason for picking this game then for your wall? And I went, for you to discover, right? Like,
yeah.
And besides, it's a lot of games with a lot of rules. Like,
yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Also, it's a problem when all I ever want to do is play Dice Throne and Ark Nova. But
well, if you've played it 33 times, then hasn't come out that often. Or that long ago. Like, it's a fairly newer game.
Yeah.
And like, I have a larger collection.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that if I really like a game, I'll play it up to 3 times. It's like, oh, you played it. Oh, wow, you must really like it. And I kind of jump from game to game a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you've played Ark Nova 33 times.
33.
Yeah.
There's something there.
I'm excited for after the podcast. I've got 2 friends that are like, Ark Nova tonight?
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah. You only play your 34th game of Ark Nova once. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought it'd be funny to mention.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, I gotta try this game.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, no, my sister played it with her, and my sister, plays a lot, but she's not quite as avid a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
And her coworker had Ark Nova, so she's like, oh my god, my new coworker's into games. So then she went and played it there, and then it took a long time, but she's like, it was amazing. So I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. So with the games, obviously you don't know them all. Do you kind of have a schedule, or where like you and your staff kind of take time to try to learn some of these different games? Or
I mean, we call those staff meetings.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, well, we disguise them as staff meetings, but
yeah, for sure.
we also have kind of like a chalkboard that says like, hey, if you like this, try this. If you like this, try this. That way,
nice.
When guests are like, oh, I really like Jenga. What's this Catch the Moon? And then all of our staff are kind of like, oh, we know all the ones that we recommend because we're recommending
Of course, right.
And those are the ones that we usually gravitate to. Things like Machikoro or like the Red Dragon Inn.
Nice.
Stuff like that.
Nice.
Wonderful.
How do you organize all your games in your store? Is it like alphabetical or like player count? How do you do it?
Yeah. We organize our library in a few sections. We have a casual games wall, which is like your Jenga, your Uno, Monopoly, Ticket to Ride, Catan. Then we have our party games, which are games like, What Do You Meme, Cards Against Humanity, stuff like that. And then we have our competitive games. And then we have cooperative games. And then our final one is strategy. So like unit placement, stuff like that. And we organize them by difficulty with like stickers. So like little stickers that we stick on the side of the box. Because the last thing you want is to pull, like, oh, Ark Nova, this looks cool, and it's a hefty game. Like, oh,
Exactly.
It's just got animals. It couldn't be that hard, right?
You discover the cafe
just
for the
people
first time.
pull it
Oh,
out, try and learn
let's
it right
check
there.
this out. Board games, is that a thing? And then you pull out Kanban. Oh, that looks easy. Let's.
Oh no. Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, if you're new to board games, you will have a game that you'll open and look and be like, no.
Yeah.
Just put the lid back on.
Yeah.
I'll have friends come over and then I got a new game and they're like, oh, sweet, you got a new game. Let's play it. And it's like, no, we're not ready.
Right.
First I have to watch videos. I have rule books to we'll be ready in a week.
Yep.
But like there can be a prep process to this. So by having the difficulty sticker makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted people to be like, oh, like they just know that like green sticker is like you pick it up, you'll be ready to go in about like 15 minutes, 10 minutes. And then blues are like, you'll have to read the instruction manual through, kind of like Wingspan. You do kind of have to read through. And then game like yellow games, those are like above and below where you'll have like the instruction manual and you're kind of referencing as you play. And then our like really top games are like the red ones. Those are like Twilight Imperium.
Danger.
Yeah, like On Mars, Twilight Imperium, Twilight Struggle. Like, make a whole day. Grab a sleeping bag.
Yeah. Right. I know. We used to have a cafe that was only open once a week on Saturdays. This was our first one in Red Deer, and it was open from I think it was 6 till about 11:30 on every Saturday, and that was it. So we would go there, and when I was a new gamer, I would just learn from other people. But then after a while, I would, go and learn the game before that we planned to play. And one night we went there and I had learned whatever we were playing, but I looked over and these 3 people had pulled out Great Western Trail and were learning it from the book, like right there. And I had no idea what kind of game it was. But now when I think back to that, by the end of the night, I think they were on round 2. I think they had learned it and maybe got to round 2 in 5.5 hours or whatever. Yep. But do people do that? Like, will they come and they're like, that's it. I'm just going to pull out like Ark Nova and we'll just learn it. And they do?
So, yeah. So like on both tangents, one of them being like, I had a friend come in. They'd been a guest for like a while and he came with his friends and they grabbed On Mars. And they spent 2.5 hours, like, reading and setting up and all that stuff. They played one turn. Each person moved one piece or, like, did one action. And they, like, wrapped it up and they're like, that was awesome. That was awesome. I was like, dude, you didn't even finish. You didn't even play the game. And they're like, no, that was awesome. I'm like, okay.
There are times like that. I did that, back when I was just getting into board game and I went to a board game cafe and then we pulled out, was it Arkham Horror?
Arkham Horror. Yeah.
So one of those, like where you had the board. So we set the board and we're like, and because my kids were there playing tanks. So they were playing the tanks game over there. So me and the other mom that had come with me. So by the time they were done and we're leaving for the evening, we had not yet taken like a full turn. Just because we're new to board games, they're like, okay, what? But then after that one turn, it's like, no, but I can tell this is a good game.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you can just tell, you can just feel like this is really good.
Yeah.
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 It happens.
I don't have a chance to like fully play through games now these days because
Mhm.
you know I'll crack open a game, learn it for a few seconds or like a minute or like whenever there's a little bit of quiet time. And then if there is like enough time, we get like at least like an hour in. But then it's enough for me to experience the mechanics of it, and you're like, whoa, like that is such a unique mechanic, or that is such a unique way of doing it. That like you never see in another game, and you're like, wow, like you can kind of foresee how the game will play out, and then it kind of just leaves you like excited for a chance that you may be able to like see someone playing it, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's happening. Right? Yeah,
That's neat. So, how do you pick what you're going to add to your collection? Again, where do you get your games from? Are they always new, or like how does that work?
that's a good question. We either like ask for guest feedback, like, hey, is there a game that you're kind of looking for that we didn't have? I noticed that you were kind of browsing the wall for a while and you couldn't find a specific title. Either that, or we check like Board Game Geek, or we just look at like different Kickstarters. And as much as I love to kickstart every single board game under the sun, we try to track like what is trending. But just because something is like popular doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to come in to play it. Because if it is really popular, they may have already gotten it themselves.
True.
So it's really hard to choose. We kind of just have to cast a line, and then worst case scenario, we get it for ourselves. And
Right.
Eventually someone will find it and discover, kind of like a gem, right?
Yeah. Do you find like you got the hot new game that's coming out, everybody's talking about, everybody wants it, they come looking for it. Do you notice it fizzling out?
Yeah, it does. A lot of people are like, hey, could you just order it in for me? But if there isn't enough requests, I unfortunately, as much as I would love to get it in, I can't just, order whatever, right? Shipping is a thing, and it does cost a lot.
Right?
So I understand. Like, I understand why people may not want to get it themselves, because especially I'm running a cafe where we specialize in like, hey, if you don't know, try it out first, and then you can make a commitment, right? I have to take that risk too sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a question. Because you have limited space, so do you, like, when some new games come in, do you have to kick some other ones out? Or do you just make more shelving? Or like, like we
Make more
we
shelving.
seem to just get more shelves in our house. We just, I don't know.
So
what
we're
we'll do.
looking to
There's
just
no
start
shelf
storing.
space,
So we're looking to
okay.
just start like taping board games underneath people's tables now. No, there are a couple of games that us collectively as a staff are like, if we need to have like a staff, year-end campfire party, those are going to be the kindling.
Oh, okay.
We
So
have a
some
couple ones that we're
get
ready to
used.
exile.
Yeah.
We definitely have a few that we're like, for now they kind of get put away, and a lot of like the board game developers that come and test at our cafe, they're like, hey, can I like have a couple extra pieces because I'm looking to test if this works, right?
Nice.
And we can loan some out and whatnot, but for now we haven't gotten to the point where we need to like permanently exile them. We've got enough space. Like my brother and I got a good amount of shelving for, and it's our wall is divided into like 2 walls and a half wall, which is still not enough room, but we're getting there. We're getting to the point where we'll need to start culling a couple off, which will be a sad day for some of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, oh, sorry. Go.
Yeah, go ahead, Carla.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in like your clientele. Like I know board gaming community, and we're a tight knit community. Like we all know each other. We all go from gaming event to gaming event. We see each other again and again and again, and then we see each other's kind of post and share, like selling and the board games and stuff. So the D6 news, like we all knew about it. So I'm expecting a lot of your clientele are gamers. But how about new people like that haven't really kind of, it's like, I guess, discovered modern board games yet? Like, how do they discover D6? Like,
yeah,
do you get a lot of those, and what do they normally play?
So we get a lot of new guests, like players that have only ever played, Monopoly or Jenga or Battleship or Guess Who, and they come in, and my brother and I, the cafe itself is very like board game focused, but we didn't want to make it like exclusionary.
Right.
Like we want to be as inclusive as possible. So you'll have parents or people that are coming in just for a cup of coffee, because we do serve a really good roast, in my opinion. And they come in and they see the wall and they go like, wow, it's so nice and well lit and it's cozy and it's comfortable. And then they go, oh, but I would never play it. This is too complicated for me. But then, I always go into like, no, this is really easy. Like this, blah, blah, blah. I can show you in like 3 minutes. And then when they come another time with their friends and family, they're like, oh, I want to try Monopoly, but I'm too worried that it'll be too difficult. And I'm like, oh, well, how about like Machikoro 2? This is significantly easier. Or, for example, like, if they are kind of familiar with board games, but they're looking for like, new mechanics, like worker placement, the Cookie Run Kingdom board game, it's kind of new. It's based off of like a mobile game.
Okay.
But it's like, I would classify it as like baby's first worker placement.
Okay.
It has like cookies and you're kind of building a kingdom. And like, I teach it to people and they're like, oh, like that's really cool. Like, oh, my cookie goes here. And then, oh, I'm all out of cookies. So I don't get to do any more actions. Like I'm done. And that's easy to understand. And then they're like, why am I playing Jenga? Like, why would but not to say Jenga's a bad game.
Yeah.
But they're like, whoa, like.
No, I know what you mean though. Yeah.
They're like, whoa, this is new. Like, this is cool. And then they tell their like friends and family. They're like, oh yeah, I was playing this game where you're like building a kingdom and blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, oh, that sounds too complicated. It's like, no. It's like super easy. And then you see them taking pictures of the game and sharing. And it's, I just stand there, behind the counter, seeing these people try new games. And I'm like, yes, like, that's
you see the sparks.
We got another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
converted another.
Yeah, exactly. And then they come back and they're like, I want to try this game. And they start like grabbing like a deck builder. And they would have never done a deck builder in their entire life before. And now they're like, oh, so this is like, when do I recycle my cards? Or like, when do I shuffle my discard? When, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they didn't understand what does turn order mean? Like,
right.
Jenga is just you push the block, and is that it? Like
start getting the terminology and
yeah. Like,
so I mean, like
synergy stuff like that.
I'm seeing like beginner deck builder from you. I would see like Harry Potter just because the theme grasps a lot of people. What's your go-to for somebody who wants to try a deck builder?
Star Realms is one my brother always recommends. Like that's I feel like that just like resonates so easily.
What if
Star
just
Realms
people
one
came in? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to say you can finish that one, but answer this after. If people came in, they were on a date, and they had really never played many games, what would be just a game you'd recommend? Like, probably wouldn't, suggest a worker placement,
The romantic
but something.
option.
Yeah.
What would you suggest?
Which is actually kind of a funny segue because it kind of ties both in. I usually recommend like the Star Wars deck builder because that one is actually quite good. That one's really fun. It's really engaging because you're playing as Empire and then the Rebels as well. And then for another date night game, they always grab chess. Chess is like one that like everybody grabs, and I'm like, rather than chess, why not Onitama?
Nice, yeah. Onitama is such an amazing game.
So good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really don't need to go into detail. It's, it's like chess, but you don't have like en passant and like castling. And then, you're doing the Grand British Opener on like, you're moving the pawn up one. Like, that's such an interesting play. You're like, no, it's just a card and you play it and I'm using turtle. And this guy's like, I'm going to use tiger. Onitama just takes all the posh out of it and just focuses on like, here's a really simple game. You're going to enjoy it. And it's, I wouldn't say like intimate, but like you really engage with the person because you kind of like, they are probably going to do this, and you can see what they're doing. And then you can also kind of like, I've noticed a couple of first dates where like the one of the players will be like, just gives them that card.
Accidentally touch hands.
oops, I used this card, I used Mantis, and then like they purposely push it out like so that the other player will play the Mantis and then take their king or whatever. And I'm like, that was such a given move, but you know what I mean. First date stuff.
That's funny. That's funny.
Well, I mean, Onitama is such a great game. 2-minute teach, that's it. Like
done.
And the strategy behind it is so satisfying, thinky game still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you said you have a lot of new players. Like, what would you think your percentage of new to like normal gamers would be?
Normal gamers.
Half and half. Well,
yeah.
I don't know what to call us. Gamers, I guess.
I don't think normal fits.
No, none of us are normal. That's true.
Yeah.
That's kind of an oxymoron, right? Normal gamer, not a thing. To us,
not the general
non-gamer to gamer.
Passionate gamers. I'd say a lot of like new gamers. We see a good amount. Just because we operate as like a coffee shop. Like I said, we have a lot of people that have never played board games ever in their entire life. And one of our main selling points is that we don't have any alcohol, so we're family friendly. And not only does that like encourage more families to come and spend time together playing, it also means that the board games are nice and clean and everything is, well kept, and you don't have to worry about someone on the table next to you
getting wild or something. Yeah.
Getting wild or rowdy.
Yeah.
And so a lot of new players we see, I'd say maybe more than half of our guests are new players. And that is the most rewarding part.
Mm-hmm.
Is seeing people that have like never played any game at all. And they ask like, do you have playing cards? And I'm like, well, yes, we do. But maybe I can teach you like, maybe we'll try this game. Maybe we'll try Hues and Cues.
Yeah. Or
like just one. And they play and they're like, this is a board game? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, you're this is a game. Like, and then they start trying new games. They're trying like So Clover, and then they move on to like Beyond Pictionary, and they're doing Telestrations because even some players have never played Telestrations. And then they move up to like Camel Up, and then they're moving on to like they're playing like the Cartoon Network deck builder, and like you see that kind of growth, and you're like, whoa! Like I would have never imagined that being able to show people, like the joy that you can gain from trying something new without the burden of like, oh, people will make fun of me, or I'm not smart enough, or this is too hard for me. We're really trying to just break those barriers to games, because games should be for everybody.
Exactly. I think that's every gamer's dream, is to convert everybody into a gamer, not just to have people to play with, but just to have everyone to have the joy that we do, that we get out of games, the like satisfaction, the love, it's such a good feeling. And that's why I always want to turn people. I do also want to have more people to play with, but I just want them to go out and play with other people too, and just have fun. And because when the feeling of when someone plays a game and they're like, I didn't know that this even existed, like this type of game. It's like, I know, isn't it awesome? You're just like, it's such a good feeling.
And it is such an amazing discovery. Kind of people say, oh, okay, all these board games, and then they have a picture of what they see as
Risk.
a board game to be. Oh my god, I hate Risk.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, it's like Risk, I'm out.
No.
But and then just to see, like, because it is unreal, the feeling that it brings, the satisfaction, the fun is like, what was that? Oh my god, what was that? So and it's so neat to kind of see people, and I believe there is the perfect game out there for absolutely everybody.
100%.
There is a game out there that somebody will love if they just bother to sit down at the table.
Someone chose them at some point. Yeah. And it's so neat that you, like you said, you don't serve alcohol, which is really neat. Because I know when I describe my hobby to some of my friends that, like, I've only been a gamer maybe 10 years. So my old friends aren't typically gamers, maybe like party gamers. But when I describe to them and they're like, well, so do you guys bet on the games? Like, do you guys... I'm like, no, we just play them. Well, do you drink while you're playing? No, we don't drink. And
you're going to lose if you drink.
Head, they're like, so you guys are drinking and you're not betting on, like, what's the fun in it? I'm like, it's just so fun. Like, it's so hard to describe to non-gamers about our games,
Yeah.
So the fact that you get to see that every day, and you're the one bringing people to it because you're slowly, and not shaming them into like feeling bad about not playing our games.
No.
That's the worst thing, I think, when people gatekeep like that. And it's like, you don't know what this is, or you're playing Monopoly. Like, don't do that, people, because that scares them away. We have to just slowly bring them in, and like, and then they will.
And you have some people that the enthusiasm is so high. It's like, oh great, you want to? Yeah, let's play games. Okay, I'll get Twilight Imperium. And oh, you'll love it.
Oh my god! Like the moment like you're playing Root, and they're like, the moment you play 2 policies, and then you like hit and turn to like decline, and like like you hit a mutiny or like whatever, like, and it's like, what are you talking about?
I'm out of here.
Don't start there, you'll lose them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a wild animal. You gotta domesticate them slowly.
Ease. So this is called card draw, right?
Oh, geez, that's funny. Now, Solomon, I know you guys have a lot of different things that goes on at D6. You have a prototype night. Like, you have a miniature painting one as well. So do you want to kind of fill us in? What all do you do? So if somebody's listening, it's like, okay, well, I don't know, maybe this sounds interesting. Like, what's available to them?
Yeah. We have, like you mentioned, the board game developer night. That happens on Thursday nights, every other Thursday nights. They kind of, doing it every week was a bit tiring for a lot of the developers. So they alternate between the weeks. And that's when they bring in like games that haven't even made it into like the industry yet. And they're still testing. And it's a fully built game, but they want to see like, hey, can you break the mechanics? What works, what doesn't? And, really, really fun to see those. Like that's every other Thursdays. And then the other thing that we do is, it's called Paint Club on Wednesday.
Yeah.
First rule about Paint Club, is thin your paints. Second rule is
Thin
please
your
talk
paints.
about, please talk about Paint Club is our second rule. It's run by our evening chef, Colin. He's an avid painter, and he works a lot with like insulation foam to build like, we have like a quest board, where people can make postings on like, hey, I'm looking for groups. He made that out of like pink insulation foam, and he like carved it
Oh, wow.
himself, and it looks like real wood. It looks like real wood. It has like knots in it. So it looks like it's a
wow.
plank of wood on our wall, but it's not. It's insulation foam.
Make sure you send me a picture
Wow.
of that.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And then, him and then some of our regular guests that come in, they all sit together and share tips and tricks on how to paint. And, one of our youngest painters is, I think, only like 9 years old. And
wow.
they got a mini, and they just came in, and they're like, let's do this. Like, I've never painted before. I want to learn how to do it. And, just went from there. So those are some of our like weekly rotation stuff that like happens it's every other week. So Paint Club happens
Right.
on a week, and then next week is the developer night on Thursday, then Paint Club on Wednesday, and then developer Thursday. So it kind of
And
alternate.
board game in between all the time.
Exactly. We
Wonderful.
have like a special days of the week thing. So Mondays you get like bonus stamps on drinks. Wednesdays, kids under 10 get to play for free, with like parent supervision, of course.
Right.
And then Thursdays is like half off check-in with a drink. And then Fridays is like, student night. So it's, there's a discount on your check-in if you're a student with a drink and whatnot. So,
Nice.
we call it make it a D6 week,
Nice.
something to do to take your mind off of other things and just, play a game with some friends.
What
That's
are your
wonderful.
hours that you are open?
Yeah, we're open every day except for Tuesdays. Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we're open from 10 o'clock till 11. Fridays and Saturdays, we're open from 11 o'clock till 10 o'clock. Sorry, I inversed that. We open at 11, close at 10.
At 10.
And then on Fridays and Saturdays, we close at midnight instead, just so that we have more time for people to come and play. And then on Sundays, my brother and I like to catch up on some snores. So we open at noon till 10 on Sundays instead. But, definitely a lot of time to come in and just sit all day, play all day,
Hmm. Yeah, no, that sounds wonderful. And how does it work? Like, so there's an entry fee, and it's just you have access all day if you wanted to.
Yeah. The last thing that my brother and I wanted was to, make you watch the clock while you're playing.
Yeah.
And games can range from different play times, right? Ark Nova is like a 3-hour game if you've never played it before. So it's just $10 to stay all day, play all day. So you don't have to worry about like hourly charges. You don't have to worry about anything. Just come, sit, play. And, that way you don't like grab a game, play like 15 minutes and then be like, oh, well, we already opened it, so we might as well just kind of finish it. The one thing I tell a lot of our guests is never feel hostage to the game, because that tends to happen a lot. They're like, well, we opened it already. You kind of taught us, so now we kind of have to. And I go, no, you don't have to. Like,
No.
if it isn't your game, then, try something else, right? That's why
For sure.
there's...
Because you don't want them to get a bad taste either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so many games. If games were just one and done, then we wouldn't have that many games, right?
Mm-hmm. So now for anybody listening all around the world here,
Mhm.
what do you have for tips if they say it's like, okay, I've been thinking about doing this. I want to open a board game cafe.
Yeah.
Out of your own personal experiences, do you have any tips that you would recommend for somebody who's considering that?
buy a lot of copies of Cards Against Humanity and Red Flags.
Oh my gosh.
I'm teasing. Not really.
Not really. No, I'm teasing, but do it.
But do it. You'll be surprised the number of people that are like Jenga, Red Flags, Cards Against Humanity. That's it. They're content.
Wow.
But no.
Wow.
I guess like a big tip is never feel like you're like you should exclude people, because at the end of the day, what really matters is sharing the joy that board games bring. And one should never feel like, oh, I'm way more experienced, or I'm way more knowledgeable. Oh, you only play, like you only play just Red Dragon Inn, and you don't try an actual game like Terraforming Mars. Like never feel like you're above another player when playing, and always understand that there may be games that are more difficult for some people, and that's okay. They may not grasp it right away, but everyone has always started from somewhere, right? And the number one thing is to be as open and welcoming to every player.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. I gotta
Those are
say,
good words.
in the grand scheme of things, from what I've noticed, I find the board game community is one of the most inclusive communities I've come across.
Yeah.
Like there's no questions like, oh, so and so want to play. Okay, great, they can come play. Like we're just so excited to have another player that there's very little boundaries.
Like, I mean, the very nature of board games requires us to play together. I mean, I can only play Ark Nova on solo mode more than 12 times before I'm like, all right, maybe I'll play with someone. Right. But that's like besides the point. Like, we are a very open community. We are a very inclusive community, because it's way more fun to just play